cold hits you first. Not the gentle, romantic kind of cold you see in movies, but the kind that makes your lungs burn and your eyes water before you've even stepped fully outside. You're standing in Finnish Lapland, about 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle, and the temperature is sitting at a crisp -32 degrees Celsius. That's -25 Fahrenheit for those keeping track. The kind of cold that makes your phone battery die in minutes and turns your breath into instant fog. But you're not here for comfort. You're here for something most people will never experience. Tonight, you're sleeping in a glass igloo, a transparent dome perched on the edge of the wilderness, designed for one purpose: to give you an unobstructed view of the aurora borealis, the northern lights. And if you think you know what you're in for, trust me, you don't. So before we dive into this Arctic adventure, take a moment to hit that like button if you're enjoying this journey, and subscribe if you want more immersive experiences from around the world. I always love seeing where you're watching from in the comments, so drop your location and let me know what time it is for you right now. Now dim your lights if you can, maybe grab a warm drink and let's step into this crystalline world together. You've just checked into Kaxlauten Arctic Resort, and the receptionist hands you a key attached to a small wooden reindeer. Cute, but also practical because in a few hours, when the sun disappears and everything looks the same, this little carved animal might be the only way you recognize your temporary home among the scattered domes dotting the snowy landscape. Your guide, Mika, is the kind of Finn who makes surviving sub-zero temperatures look effortless. He's wearing what appears to be a regular jacket while you're bundled in enough layers to make a marshmallow jealous. He leads you along a path that's been carved through snow so deep it reaches your waist on either side. The crunch under your boots is sharp, almost musical, and the only other sound is the whisper of wind through the sparse birch trees. Then you see it. Your glass igloo sits like a crystal bubble against the white expanse, its transparent walls reflecting the last traces of daylight. It's smaller than you imagined, more intimate. The curved glass dome rises about 8 feet at its peak, and the entire structure looks impossibly fragile against the harsh landscape, like it might shatter if you breathe on it wrong. Thermal glass, Mika explains, noticing your skeptical expression. Heated, double-layered, designed not to fog or frost. You'll see everything tonight. He opens the door, which is surprisingly heavy, and warm air rushes out to meet the Arctic chill. The temperature difference is so extreme, it creates an instant cloud between the two environments. Inside, the space is cozy but efficient. A double bed dominates the center, covered in what looks like an entire reindeer's worth of fur blankets. There's a small heating unit humming quietly in the corner, a tiny bathroom that's basically a glorified closet, and that's about it. No television, no Wi-Fi strong enough to stream anything. No distractions. Just you, the bed, and 360 degrees of glass separating you from the Arctic wilderness. The walls curve seamlessly from floor to ceiling, creating the sensation that you're inside a snow globe. During these final moments of daylight, you can see for miles in every direction. Rolling hills covered in pristine snow, sparse forests of birch and pine, and absolutely no signs of human civilization, except for the distant glow of the resort's main building. Mika shows you the heating controls, explains how the bathroom works, and points to a thermos of hot chocolate that's been left on the small side table. Dinner is at 7 in the main lodge, he says, but most people like to return to their igloo by 9. That's when the real show begins. As he leaves, the silence that follows is profound. This isn't the quiet of a library or the hush of a sleeping house. This is the silence of a world muffled by snow, where sound itself seems to freeze before it can travel. You sit on the edge of the bed and realize you can hear your own heartbeat. The sun is setting now. Though sunset feels like the wrong word, it's more like the light is being slowly drained from the sky, like someone's adjusting a cosmic dimmer switch. The horizon glows orange, then red, then purple, then disappears entirely. And that's when you understand why people travel thousands of miles to sleep in a glass box in the middle of nowhere. The darkness here isn't like city darkness or even suburban darkness. This is primal darkness, the kind your ancestors knew before streetlights and neon signs. When you turn off the small lamp beside the bed, the blackness is so complete, you literally cannot see your hand in front of your face. It's disorienting, almost frightening, until your eyes begin to adjust. And then, slowly, the stars appear. Not the handful of stars you might see from your backyard, but thousands upon thousands of them. So bright and numerous they look fake, like someone bedazzled the sky. The Milky Way stretches overhead, like a cosmic highway, and you can actually see it rotating as the Earth turns. Constellations you've only seen in textbooks suddenly make sense when they're not competing with light pollution. You pour yourself some hot chocolate and climb under the fur blankets, still fully clothed because despite the heating unit, it's cold. Not uncomfortably cold, but cold enough that you're grateful for every layer. The thermal glass has done its job perfectly. No condensation, no frost, just crystal clear views in every direction. This is when you start to understand the waiting. Aurora hunting, as the locals call it, is less about the spectacular light show and more about the anticipation. The northern lights are notoriously unpredictable. Solar activity, cloud cover, atmospheric conditions, all of these factors have to align perfectly. Some people spend a week in Lapland and never see them. Others step off the plane and are greeted by a green curtain dancing across the sky. You check your phone. 9:15 p.m. The Aurora Forecast app shows moderate activity, which could mean anything from a faint green glow on the horizon to a full-scale celestial symphony. There's nothing to do but wait, watch, and try not to fall asleep too early. The temperature outside has dropped to -37 degrees Celsius. You know this because there's a small digital display near the door that shows both the internal and external temperatures. Inside your glass cocoon, it's a comfortable 21 degrees. The heating system works harder now, cycling on every few minutes with a gentle whoosh of warm air. This is where the real magic of the experience begins to reveal itself. You're lying in bed, warm and safe, while the Arctic wilderness surrounds you completely. Through the glass walls, you watch snow begin to fall, not the gentle flakes of a Christmas card, but hard, wind-driven crystals that strike the glass with tiny tapping sounds. It's hypnotic, like being inside a natural percussion instrument. The isolation starts to work on your mind in unexpected ways. Without the constant buzz of notifications, emails, and urban noise, your thoughts become clearer, more focused. You find yourself actually listening to the silence, noticing how it has texture and depth. Occasionally, a branch cracks in the distance, or wind whistles through the trees, and these sounds seem amplified in the stillness. You're starting to feel drowsy despite yourself. The combination of travel fatigue, the warm cocoon of blankets, and the rhythmic tapping of snow against glass creates the perfect conditions for sleep. But you fight it because you didn't travel this far and pay this much to miss the main event, 10:30 p.m. Still no aurora, just stars and falling snow. Your eyelids are getting heavy, and you're beginning to understand why this experience is so transformative for most people. It's not just about seeing the northern lights. It's about disconnecting so completely from modern life that you remember what it feels like to be truly present, truly still. The bed is surprisingly comfortable, despite being in what's essentially a transparent tent in the Arctic. The reindeer fur blankets are incredibly warm, and the mattress has been chosen specifically for its insulation properties. You're cozy, you're safe, and you're surrounded by one of the most pristine wildernesses left on Earth, 11 p.m. You've been drifting in and out of light sleep when something makes you open your eyes. At first, you're not sure what woke you. The snow has stopped, and the silence is even deeper than before. Then you see it. A faint green glow on the northern horizon, so subtle you almost dismiss it as imagination. But it's moving, undulating like a curtain in a gentle breeze. Your heart rate picks up as you realize this might be it, the moment you've been waiting for. The green glow intensifies slowly, spreading across more of the sky. It's still faint, nothing like the dramatic photos you've seen online, but it's undeniably there. The aurora borealis, caused by charged particles from the sun colliding with Earth's magnetic field, creating a light show that's visible only in the polar regions. You sit up in bed, suddenly wide awake, as the lights begin to dance more actively. Ribbons of green stretch across the sky, joined now by hints of purple and blue. The display is growing stronger, more confident, like a performer warming up before the main act. This is when you understand that everything you've experienced so far, the journey, the cold, the isolation, the waiting, has been leading to this moment. You're lying in a glass bubble in the middle of the Arctic wilderness, about to witness one of nature's most spectacular phenomena. And you're completely, utterly alone with it. The aurora continues to build, the green curtains becoming more vivid, more dynamic. They pulse and flow like they're alive, like the sky itself is breathing. And you realize that despite being tired, despite the long day of travel, despite every instinct telling you to sleep, you're about to have one of those experiences that changes how you see the world. But the real show, the moment that will make this entire Arctic adventure unforgettable, is still building overhead. The green curtains above you suddenly explode into movement, as if someone just turned the volume up on the universe. What started as a gentle glow transforms into ribbons of light that stretch from horizon to horizon, undulating with an otherworldly grace that makes your breath catch in your throat. This isn't the static postcard image you expected. This is alive. You press your face against the cold glass, trying to take in the full scope of what's happening above you. The aurora moves like liquid silk, flowing and folding in patterns that seem almost choreographed. Waves of green cascade across the sky, joined now by fingers of purple that reach down toward the earth like they're trying to touch the snow-covered landscape around your igloo. The silence makes it even more surreal. You expect something this magnificent to have a soundtrack, but nature's greatest light show performs in complete quiet. The only sound is your own breathing, slightly faster now with excitement, and the gentle hum of the heating unit maintaining your warm sanctuary in the frozen wilderness. You grab your phone to capture this moment, but the screen is dim and unresponsive. The cold has finally killed the battery completely. And honestly, you're grateful. This isn't meant to be photographed or shared or documented. This is meant to be experienced, absorbed, remembered in your bones, rather than stored in your camera roll. The lights intensify further, and you notice something incredible happening. The aurora isn't just above you anymore. Because of your 360-degree glass walls, you can see it wrapping around the entire dome of the sky, creating the sensation that you're floating in space, surrounded by cosmic fire. Ribbons of light dance to your left, your right, overhead, everywhere you look. A new color appears, a soft pink that blends with the green like watercolors bleeding into each other. Then comes blue, then a purple so deep it's almost violet. The entire electromagnetic spectrum seems to be painting itself across the Arctic sky, and you're lying in the front row of the cosmic theater. Your body is warm under the reindeer fur, but your skin prickles with something that has nothing to do with temperature. This is awe in its purest form, the kind that makes you feel simultaneously insignificant and deeply connected to something larger than yourself. You're watching charged particles from the sun, particles that traveled 93 million miles through space, colliding with Earth's magnetic field to create this display. It's science, but it feels like magic. The patterns shift and flow with hypnotic rhythm. Sometimes the lights form perfect arcs that span the entire visible sky. Other moments, they spiral and twist like cosmic DNA helixes. Then they break apart into shimmering fragments before reforming into curtains that ripple like they're caught in a celestial breeze. You lose track of time completely. Minutes or hours could be passing, and it wouldn't matter. The aurora has created its own temporal dimension, where normal measurements become meaningless. You exist only in this moment, in this glass bubble, watching the sky perform just for you. The cold outside has intensified even further. The digital thermometer now reads -41 degrees Celsius, but inside your heated cocoon, you're perfectly comfortable. The contrast makes the experience even more surreal. You're witnessing one of the harshest environments on Earth while lying in bed, warm and safe, like you're watching a nature documentary except you're inside it. A particularly brilliant wave of green light sweeps directly overhead, so bright it illuminates the interior of your igloo with an ethereal glow. For a moment, everything inside takes on a greenish tint, and you feel like you're underwater in some alien ocean. The light reflects off the curved glass walls, creating multiple layers of aurora that seem to surround you completely. This is when the real magic happens, when you stop trying to understand or analyze what you're seeing and simply let it wash over you. The lights become a meditation, a natural mandala painted across the sky in colors that don't quite exist anywhere else. Your breathing slows, your muscles relax, and you enter a state of pure receptivity. The aurora begins to pulse in rhythm, like a cosmic heartbeat. Scientists would explain this as variations in solar wind intensity, but lying here in your glass sanctuary, it feels like the Earth itself is breathing, inhaling, and exhaling light. Each pulse sends new waves of color rippling across the sky, and you find your own breathing synchronizing with the rhythm. You think about the Sami people, the indigenous inhabitants of Lapland, who have been watching these lights for thousands of years. They have dozens of names for different types of aurora, words that describe not just the colors and patterns, but the spiritual significance of each display. Tonight's aurora would have a specific name in their language, a name that captures not just its appearance, but its meaning, its message from the spirit world. The lights dance with increasing intensity, as if they know they have an audience and are performing specifically for you. Vertical columns of green shoot up from the horizon like searchlights, then bend and curve overhead to form a luminous cathedral dome. You're lying inside a church made of light, and the service is being conducted in a language older than words. Your eyelids grow heavy again, but this time you don't fight it. The warmth of the blankets, the rhythmic pulsing of the aurora, and the profound peace of your Arctic sanctuary combine to create the perfect conditions for sleep. But this won't be ordinary sleep. This will be the kind of rest that comes when you're completely aligned with the natural world, when your circadian rhythms sync with forces larger than electric lights and digital clocks. As you drift towards sleep, the aurora continues its performance, painting dreams across your closed eyelids. The green light seems to seep through the glass, through your skin, into your very cells. You're absorbing the aurora, becoming part of it, and it's becoming part of you. The last thing you register before sleep takes you is the profound silence broken only by the gentle whisper of your own breathing and the barely audible hum of the heating system keeping you alive in this beautiful, terrible wilderness. The northern lights continue their ancient dance overhead, indifferent to your consciousness, performing for the stars and the snow and the sleeping Arctic foxes. You're falling asleep inside a snow globe, surrounded by the most spectacular natural phenomenon on Earth, in one of the most remote locations on the planet. Tomorrow you'll try to describe this experience to friends and family, but you already know the words don't exist. Some things can only be lived, only felt, only absorbed through the pores of your being. The aurora pulses one more time, a gentle goodnight from the cosmos, and your breathing deepens as true Arctic sleep begins to claim you. But even as consciousness fades, part of your awareness remains tuned to the lights overhead, ready to surface if the show becomes too spectacular to sleep through. This is the moment when the experience transforms from something you're watching to something you're living. The boundary between observer and observed dissolves, and you become part of the Arctic night, part of the aurora, part of the ancient rhythm of Earth spinning through space under a sky full of dancing light. The glass igloo protects you from the killing cold while keeping you completely connected to the wild beauty surrounding you. You're simultaneously safe and exposed, comfortable and adventurous, alone and deeply connected to the universe. It's the perfect paradox, and it's exactly where you need to be. Sleep comes in waves, just like the aurora itself. You drift in and out of consciousness, sometimes opening your eyes to check if the lights are still dancing, sometimes dreaming that you're floating among them. The boundary between waking and sleeping becomes as fluid as the boundary between earth and sky outside your transparent walls. The cold seeps through your dreams in strange ways. Even wrapped in reindeer fur, with the heating unit maintaining a steady 21 degrees, your subconscious knows you're surrounded by a landscape that could kill you in minutes. But that knowledge doesn't create fear. Instead, it adds weight to every moment, makes every breath feel precious, every heartbeat significant. You surface from sleep around 2 in the morning, drawn upward by some instinct you can't name. The aurora has shifted during your slumber, transforming from the dramatic curtains you fell asleep watching into something entirely different. Now the lights form spirals, cosmic tornadoes of green and blue that seem to drill down from space toward the frozen earth around your glass sanctuary. The patterns are hypnotic in a completely new way. Where before the lights flowed like water, now they twist like living things, like serpents made of photons dancing in the thin atmosphere 60 miles above your head. You watch one spiral form near the horizon, grow in intensity, then dissipate just as another begins to take shape in a completely different part of the sky. Your phone is completely dead now, not just low battery, but that deep Arctic death that won't respond to any button pressing. The digital clock near the door glows softly, the only artificial light in your transparent world. 2:17 a.m. Outside, the temperature has dropped to minus 43 degrees Celsius. The heating unit cycles on more frequently now, working harder against the intensifying cold. But the cold isn't your enemy here. It's your collaborator, creating the perfect atmospheric conditions for what you're witnessing. The aurora requires specific temperatures, specific atmospheric densities, specific electromagnetic conditions that exist only in places like this, only during the deepest Arctic nights. You shift under the blankets, trying to find a position where you can see as much sky as possible without leaving the warmth of your cocoon. The bed has been positioned perfectly for this purpose, allowing you to lie flat and look up through the dome while still seeing the horizon through the side panels of glass. It's like sleeping inside a telescope designed for viewing the heavens. A new wave of activity begins in the northern quadrant of the sky. This time, the lights don't flow or spiral. They pulse like a cosmic strobe light, each flash illuminating the interior of your igloo with brief moments of green-tinted brightness. The pulsing has rhythm, almost like Morse code, and you find yourself trying to decode some impossible message from the magnetosphere. The Sami people would say, the aurora are the spirits of the dead, dancing in the sky to welcome the newly departed. Lying here in this glass bubble, surrounded by landscape so pristine it feels untouched by time, you begin to understand why they might believe that. There's something undeniably spiritual about watching these lights, something that transcends scientific explanation and enters the realm of the sacred. Between pulses, the sky returns to its carpet of stars, so bright and numerous, they cast actual shadows on the snow around your igloo. The Milky Way has rotated since you first went to sleep, and now it stretches from east to west, like a bridge of light spanning the entire visible universe. You can actually see it moving, the slow rotation of Earth making the stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns. This is when the profound isolation of your situation really hits you. You're lying alone in a glass box in one of the most remote locations on Earth, farther from civilization than most humans will ever venture. The nearest city is hundreds of miles away. The nearest neighbor is probably sleeping in another igloo somewhere in the darkness beyond your vision. Yet somehow, instead of feeling lonely, you feel more connected to the universe than you ever have in your life. The aurora shifts again, this time creating what looks like a luminous river flowing across the sky from east to west. The effect is so realistic you almost expect to hear the sound of rushing water, but the silence remains absolute. This celestial river pours light across the heavens, and you're lying at the bottom of it, watching it flow overhead like you're resting on the bed of some cosmic ocean. Your breathing has synchronized with the rhythm of the lights without you realizing it. Each wave of aurora corresponds to an inhale, each fade to an exhale. You're not just watching the northern lights anymore, you're participating in them, becoming part of the same electromagnetic dance that's painting the sky above you. The temperature inside your igloo has stabilized, but you can feel the cold radiating through the thermal glass, a reminder of the hostile environment just inches away. The contrast makes your warm sanctuary feel even more precious, like you're carrying a piece of summer with you into the heart of winter. The heated air creates its own microclimate, and occasionally you can see your breath when you exhale, a small cloud that dissipates quickly in the circulated warmth. 3 a.m. arrives with another transformation. The aurora begins to form shapes that seem almost recognizable. There's what looks like a phoenix spreading wings of green fire across the northern sky. Then a spiral that resembles a galaxy, rotating slowly as if you're looking down at the Milky Way from above. Your pattern-seeking brain tries to make sense of the chaos, finding faces and animals and symbols in the dancing lights. This is the deep night, the hours when the boundary between dreaming and waking becomes fluid. You drift in and out of consciousness, sometimes opening your eyes to find the aurora has changed completely, sometimes dreaming that you're floating among the lights themselves, swimming through seas of green and purple fire. In one dream, you're standing outside the igloo without any protective clothing, but instead of feeling cold, you feel perfectly warm because the aurora is wrapping around you like a blanket made of light. In another, the glass walls of your sanctuary have disappeared entirely, and you're lying on the snow, looking up at stars so close you could reach out and touch them. When you surface from these dreams, the real aurora is still there, still dancing, still performing its ancient show. But now it feels personal, like it's dancing specifically for you, like the universe has arranged this entire display just so you could witness it from your perfect vantage point in this glass bubble in the middle of nowhere. The heating unit continues its quiet work, cycling on and off with mechanical precision. It's the only sound in your world besides your own breathing and heartbeat. Even the wind has died down, leaving the night in absolute stillness. This is silence so complete it has texture, weight, presence. It's the silence of deep space, of geological time, of places where human voices have never echoed. 4 a.m. The aurora begins to fade, not dramatically but gradually, like someone slowly turning down the brightness on the cosmic display. The green curtains become more transparent, the purple spirals lose their intensity. But even as it diminishes, the show remains beautiful, transitioning from spectacular to subtle, from overwhelming to intimate. You realize you've been holding your breath during the most intense moments, as if exhaling might somehow disturb the delicate balance of electromagnetic forces, creating this display. Now, as the lights soften, you allow yourself to breathe normally again, settling deeper into the warm nest of blankets and fur. The stars emerge more clearly as the aurora dims, reclaiming their dominance of the Arctic sky. Constellations wheel overhead in their predictable patterns, offering a sense of stability after hours of watching the chaotic dance of the northern lights. The Big Dipper has rotated significantly since you first lay down, marking the passage of time in the most ancient way humans know. This is when you begin to understand why people become addicted to aurora hunting, why they return to places like this year after year, chasing these ephemeral displays across the polar regions. It's not just about seeing something beautiful, it's about witnessing something that connects you directly to the cosmos, something that makes you feel like a participant in the grand electromagnetic symphony of the solar system. Your eyelids grow heavy again, but now it's different from the drowsiness you felt earlier. This is the deep tiredness that comes after profound experience, the exhaustion of having your senses overwhelmed by beauty. Your body feels heavy with contentment, your mind full of images that will stay with you for the rest of your life. The last clear memory you have before drifting into deep sleep is of a single ribbon of green light stretching across the entire visible sky. So faint it's barely there, but so graceful it brings tears to your eyes. It pulses once, gently, like the universe saying goodnight, and then fades into the star-drunk darkness of the Arctic night. Sleep comes easily now, the kind of profound rest that only follows complete sensory saturation. You've seen something that exists at the very edge of human experience, something that most people will only ever witness in photographs or videos. But you've lived it, breathed it, absorbed it through your skin and into your memory, where it will remain as vivid as the moment it happened. The glass igloo continues to protect you through the deepest hours of the Arctic night, maintaining its perfect balance between safety and exposure, between comfort and adventure. Outside, the temperature plunges toward -45 degrees Celsius, cold enough to freeze exposed skin in minutes. Inside, wrapped in reindeer fur and warmed by quietly circulating air, you sleep the sleep of someone who has touched the infinite and lived to dream about it. The aurora fades completely around 5 a.m., leaving behind a sky so saturated with stars, it looks like someone spilled glitter across black velvet. But sleep doesn't come immediately. Your mind is still processing what you've witnessed, still trying to make sense of the impossible colors and movements that painted themselves across the Arctic sky just hours ago. You shift under the blankets, finding a new position that lets you see the eastern horizon through the curved glass walls. Dawn is still hours away at this latitude, but there's something mesmerizing about watching the subtle changes in a sky that seems infinite. The Milky Way has rotated further, and now unfamiliar constellations dominate the dome overhead. The heating unit clicks on again, and warm air whispers through the small vents near the floor. The sound is comforting now, a mechanical lullaby that reminds you of safety and civilization, even as you're surrounded by one of the most hostile environments on Earth. The contrast is profound. 6 inches of thermal glass separate you from a landscape that has killed countless explorers. Yet here you are, warm and drowsy, and completely at peace. Your thoughts begin to fragment in that way they do when sleep is approaching. You think about the journey that brought you here, the flights and connections and long drive through snow-covered forests. It all seems surreal now, like something that happened to someone else. The person who boarded that first plane feels like a stranger compared to who you are lying here, having witnessed something that exists at the very edge of human experience. The silence has weight now. It's not just the absence of sound, but the presence of something deeper, something that speaks to parts of your consciousness you rarely access in the modern world. This is the silence your ancestors knew, the kind that allows you to hear your own thoughts, without the constant interference of engines and electronics and artificial noise. You close your eyes and try to recreate the aurora in your mind, but it's impossible. The colors were too subtle, the movements too complex, the entire experience too multidimensional to be captured by memory alone. Instead, what remains is the feeling of it, the the sense of having been present for something sacred and unrepeatable. Sleep comes in layers now, like sediment settling in still water. First, your body relaxes completely, sinking into the mattress and blankets until you feel like you're floating. Then your breathing deepens and slows, synchronizing with the rhythm of the heating unit's quiet cycles. Finally, your thoughts scatter and reform into the strange logic of dreams. In your sleep, you're walking across the snow-covered landscape outside your igloo, but your feet don't sink into the drifts. You move across the surface like it's solid ground, heading toward a distant glow on the horizon. The aurora is still there in this dream world, but now it's closer to the ground, close enough that you can reach out and touch the streaming ribbons of light. When you do touch them, they feel like silk that's been electrified, smooth and warm, and somehow alive. The lights wrap around your fingers, then your hand, then your entire arm, pulling you upward into the dancing patterns. You're flying now, swimming through curtains of green and purple fire, seeing the earth spread out below you like a map made of stars and shadows. The dream shifts and changes with the fluid logic of sleep. Sometimes you're back in the igloo, watching the lights through the glass. Other times you're floating in space, looking down at the polar regions where aurora dance around both poles simultaneously, creating mirror images of cosmic fire. The boundary between your consciousness and the electromagnetic forces creating the display dissolves completely. You dream of the Sami shamans who used to interpret the aurora as messages from the spirit world, reading meaning in every color and movement. In your dream, you can understand their language, can decode the patterns of light into stories about weather and migration and the health of the reindeer herds. The aurora becomes a vast library written across the sky, and you're fluent in its luminous alphabet. When you surface from these deep dreams, the quality of darkness outside has changed subtly. It's still hours before dawn, but there's something different in the air, a barely perceptible shift that your body recognizes, even if your conscious mind doesn't. The stars seem brighter, more focused, as if the atmosphere has cleared even further during your sleep. 6 a.m. arrives with no fanfare, marked only by the gentle glow of the digital clock near the door. Outside, the temperature has reached its nightly minimum, minus 47 degrees Celsius. The heating unit is working harder now, cycling on every few minutes to maintain the tropical 21 degrees inside your glass sanctuary. You can feel the cold radiating through the thermal windows, a reminder of just how thin the barrier is between comfort and catastrophe. But there's no fear in this recognition, only wonder. You're experiencing one of the most extreme environments on Earth from a position of perfect safety, like having a front row seat to the edge of survival without any of the actual risk. It's the ultimate paradox of modern adventure travel, and you're living it in real time. Your stomach makes a quiet sound, reminding you that you haven't eaten since dinner at the main lodge. The thermos of hot chocolate on the side table is still warm, insulated well enough to maintain its temperature through the long Arctic night. You pour yourself a cup and sip it slowly, savoring the sweetness and warmth as you watch the unchanging vista outside your transparent walls. The landscape looks different now, somehow more intimate. During the aurora display, everything felt vast and cosmic, connected to forces beyond Earth's atmosphere. Now, in the gentle starlight, the rolling hills and sparse forests feel more personal, more knowable. You can see individual trees, specific rock formations, the tracks of some small animal that crossed the snow near your igloo during the night. This shift in perspective feels significant, though you can't quite articulate why. Maybe it's the difference between experiencing nature as spectacle and experiencing it as home. The aurora was about looking up, about connecting with the infinite. This quiet pre-dawn hour is about looking around, about finding your place in the immediate world that surrounds you. You think about the wildlife that calls this landscape home. Arctic foxes with their winter white coats, reindeer that have learned to dig through snow to find lichen, snowy owls that hunt in near-complete darkness. They're out there right now, living their lives in conditions that would kill you in minutes, completely adapted to an environment that exists at the very edge of what Earth can support. The thought makes you feel both vulnerable and privileged. Vulnerable because of how dependent you are on technology and shelter to survive here. Privileged because of how rare it is for a human being to witness this landscape in its pure, undisturbed state. Most people will never see snow this clean, air this clear, stars this bright. Most people will never experience silence this complete. 7 a.m. brings another subtle shift. The stars begin to fade slightly, not from approaching dawn, but from some change in atmospheric conditions you can't identify. The sky remains deep black, but the quality of that blackness changes, becomes somehow softer around the edges. It's like watching the night breathe, inhaling and exhaling light in rhythms too slow for human perception. You realize you've been awake for most of the night, but you don't feel tired. Instead, you feel hyper-aware, like every sense has been sharpened by the combination of extreme environment and extraordinary experience. Colors seem more vivid, even in the near darkness. Sounds are more distinct, from the whisper of heated air to the subtle creaking of the igloo structure as it adjusts to the temperature differential. This heightened awareness feels like a gift, a temporary enhancement of perception that comes from stepping completely outside your normal environment. It's what mountain climbers describe at high altitude, what deep sea divers experience in the abyss. Your brain, deprived of its usual sensory inputs, has recalibrated to extract maximum information from minimal stimuli. The hot chocolate is gone now, and you're left with just the warmth of the blankets and the quiet company of your own thoughts. Outside, nothing moves except the occasional drift of snow particles across the surface, stirred by winds too gentle to hear. The landscape looks like a photograph, perfectly still and impossibly detailed. You close your eyes and try to memorize this feeling, this perfect balance of comfort and wildness, safety and adventure. Tomorrow you'll be on a plane heading home to traffic and deadlines and the thousand small stresses of modern life. But tonight, in this glass bubble at the edge of the world, you exist in a pocket of pure experience that will remain untouchable by ordinary time. The heating unit cycles on again, and you listen to the quiet rush of warm air with something approaching gratitude. It's such a simple thing, this mechanical system that's keeping you alive in an environment that would kill you quickly. But simple doesn't mean insignificant. Every component, every sensor, every carefully calculated BTU of heat represents human ingenuity applied to the challenge of surviving in impossible places. 8 a.m. arrives with the first hint of change on the eastern horizon. Not light exactly, but a barely perceptible lessening of the darkness, like someone has adjusted the contrast on the universe by the smallest possible increment. Dawn is still hours away, but the Earth is beginning its slow turn back toward the sun, and some primitive part of your brain recognizes the shift. You shift position under the blankets, trying to see more of the eastern sky through the curved glass walls. The movement sends a small wave of cooler air across your face, reminding you that despite the heating system's best efforts, you're still surrounded by one of the coldest places on Earth. The reminder doesn't create discomfort, just a deeper appreciation for the warmth you're wrapped in. This is when you begin to understand the true luxury of your situation, not the expense of the glass igloo or the remoteness of the location, but the simple fact that you can lie here in perfect comfort while nature performs its most extreme acts just outside your transparent walls. You're witnessing the planet at its most severe while wrapped in artificial spring, and that contradiction feels profound. The stars wheel overhead with their ancient precision, marking time in the same way they have for billions of years. Polaris holds its position while the other constellations rotate around it, and you realize you're watching the same celestial clockwork that guided your ancestors across oceans and continents. The technology that brought you here is modern, but the sky you're watching is eternal. Your breathing has slowed to match the rhythm of deep sleep, but your mind remains alert, processing the extraordinary circumstances of your situation. You're alone in one of the most isolated places on Earth, yet you feel more connected to the universe than you ever have surrounded by other people. Solitude, it turns out, isn't about loneliness. It's about clarity. The digital clock glows softly in the darkness. 8:47 a.m. In most places, this would be full daylight, time for coffee and commutes and the beginning of another ordinary day. Here, it's still deep night, with hours to go before the sun makes even a brief appearance above the southern horizon. Time moves differently at this latitude, and your body is slowly adjusting to rhythms that have nothing to do with clocks. You pour the last of the hot chocolate and settle deeper into the blankets, preparing for the final hours of this extraordinary night. The aurora is gone, but its memory lingers like the afterimage of a bright light, burned into your retinas and your consciousness. You know that nothing you experience for the rest of your life will quite match the perfection of lying in this glass bubble, watching the sky dance with electromagnetic fire. But that knowledge doesn't create sadness, only gratitude. You've been present for something that exists at the very edge of human experience, something that most people will only ever see in photographs or videos. You've breathed the same air as the aurora, felt its light on your skin through the glass walls, synchronized your heartbeat with the pulse of the magnetosphere. The heating unit cycles on one more time, and warm air whispers across your face like a gentle benediction. Outside, the temperature gauge reads -48 degrees Celsius, the coldest it's been all night. Inside, you remain perfectly comfortable, perfectly safe, perfectly positioned to witness whatever the Arctic night might offer next. Sleep beckons again, deeper this time, the kind of profound rest that follows complete sensory saturation. You've seen colours that don't exist anywhere else, experienced silence more complete than most people will ever know, felt the presence of cosmic forces that dwarf human understanding. Your brain needs time to process it all, to file away the memories in whatever corner of consciousness preserves the truly extraordinary. As you drift towards sleep, you realize that this experience has changed something fundamental about how you see the world. You've touched the infinite and found it beautiful rather than terrifying. You've been alone with the universe and discovered that solitude can be the deepest form of connection. You've learned that some experiences can only be lived, never shared, never fully explained to those who weren't there. The glass igloo continues its quiet work of keeping you alive in an environment that wants to kill you, maintaining its perfect balance between safety and exposure, between comfort and adventure. Tomorrow you'll return to the world of central heating and electric lights, but tonight you sleep under stars so bright they cast shadows, in a silence so complete it has texture, wrapped in warmth while the world outside tries to freeze your breath in your lungs. This is the gift of the glass igloo. Not just the chance to see the northern lights, but the opportunity to experience your own small place in the vast machinery of the cosmos. You're a temporary visitor to this edge of the world, but for these few hours, you belong here completely, as much a part of the Arctic night as the stars themselves. The first thing you notice when true sleep finally claims you isn't the warmth of the blankets or the gentle whisper of heated air. It's the dreams. Not ordinary dreams, but visions so vivid they feel more real than reality itself. You're floating above the glass igloo, looking down at your own sleeping form curled beneath the reindeer fur. And the perspective is impossible, yet completely natural. In this dream state, you can see the magnetic field lines that create the aurora, invisible rivers of electromagnetic force flowing from the Earth's core up into space where they tangle with solar wind. The northern lights aren't just pretty colours anymore. They're the visible manifestation of planetary forces so vast They dwarf human comprehension, and somehow, in your sleep, you understand their language perfectly. You dream of the Inuit hunters who crossed this landscape thousands of years before glass igloos existed, following caribou herds across frozen ground that stretched to the horizon in every direction. They slept in shelters made of snow and sealskin, warmed by whale oil lamps that flickered like tiny stars against the Arctic night. Their dreams were filled with the same aurora you watch tonight, but they saw spirits dancing where you saw physics. The heating system cycles through its programmed routine, maintaining the artificial microclimate that keeps you alive. But in your dreams, you don't need it. You're walking naked across the snow-covered tundra, and the cold feels like silk against your skin. The aurora reaches down to touch you, wrapping ribbons of green light around your shoulders like a ceremonial cloak made of pure energy. 9 a.m. arrives without fanfare, marked only by the digital clock's silent progression. The outside temperature has stabilized at -46 degrees Celsius, and the heating unit has found its rhythm, cycling on every 8 minutes to maintain perfect comfort inside your transparent sanctuary. You surface briefly from deep sleep, just long enough to register that you're still here, still safe, still surrounded by the most pristine wilderness left on Earth. The quality of darkness has shifted again, though sunrise is still hours away. There's something different in the air now, a clarity that makes the stars appear even brighter, more focused. The Milky Way has rotated to a new position, and constellations you couldn't see earlier have emerged from behind the Earth's curve. It's like having a private planetarium that updates itself throughout the night. You drift back into dreams where time moves differently. Sometimes you're watching the aurora from inside the igloo, but the lights are moving in slow motion, each wave of color taking minutes to cross the sky. Other times, everything is accelerated, and entire auroral displays flash by in seconds like cosmic lightning. Your sleeping brain is processing the experience in ways your conscious mind never could, filing away details and sensations that will surface unexpectedly for years to come. In one particularly vivid dream, you're standing on the ice of a frozen lake, and the aurora is reflecting off the surface beneath your feet. You're surrounded by light above and below, existing in a sandwich of electromagnetic fire. The reflection is perfect, creating the illusion that you're floating in space between two identical displays. When you reach out to touch the reflected lights, your hand passes through the ice like it's made of liquid mercury. The dream shifts, and suddenly you're inside the aurora itself, swimming through curtains of light that feel like warm water. Each color has its own texture. Green feels like silk, purple like velvet, blue like cool marble. You can taste the different wavelengths on your tongue, each one carrying information about solar wind speed and magnetic field strength, encoded in flavors that have no earthly equivalent. 10 a.m. brings another subtle change to the world outside your glass walls. The wind has died completely, leaving the night in absolute stillness. Not a single snow crystal moves across the frozen landscape. The silence is so complete, it becomes almost tangible, like a physical presence sharing your transparent shelter. This is the silence of deep space, of places where sound waves have nothing to carry them, of emptiness so profound it has weight. You wake more fully now, drawn up from the depths of sleep by some instinct you can't name. The thermos on the side table is empty, but you're not thirsty. The Arctic air is so dry it seems to leach moisture from everything. Yet somehow you feel perfectly hydrated. Maybe it's the heated air circulation system, or maybe your body has adapted more quickly than you expected to this alien environment. The stars overhead have reached a new configuration, one you've never seen from your home latitude. Southern constellations that never rise above your usual horizon are now visible through the curved glass dome. Canopus, normally invisible from temperate regions, glows like a blue-white diamond near the southern horizon. You're seeing stars that most people in the world will never witness. Ancient light that has traveled across the galaxy to reach your eyes in this specific moment. Your phone remains completely dead. Not just low battery, but that deep Arctic death that comes when lithium cells encounter extreme cold. The silence where notifications used to live feels liberating rather than isolating. You're completely disconnected from the digital world, existing in a pocket of pure physical reality where the only information that matters is what your senses can process directly. The heating unit's quiet operation has become a kind of mechanical meditation. Every 8 minutes, warm air whispers through the vents, and you've begun to anticipate the sound without consciously timing it. Your body has synchronized with the artificial rhythm, and you realize this must be how it feels to live on a space station, dependent on machines for every breath, while surrounded by an environment that wants to kill you. 11 a.m. passes with no change in the darkness outside. At this latitude, this close to the winter solstice, the sun won't make even a brief appearance for another 6 hours. You're living through the deepest part of the polar night, the time when this landscape feels most alien, most disconnected from the world of daylight and ordinary human activity. But alien doesn't mean hostile. Lying here in your warm cocoon, watching the stars wheel overhead with mechanical precision, you begin to understand why some people become addicted to the polar regions. There's something deeply satisfying about experiencing Earth at its most extreme, about finding beauty in conditions that exist at the very edge of what the planet can support. The glass walls of your igloo have remained perfectly clear throughout the night, the thermal coating preventing any condensation or frost. Through them, you can see for miles in every direction, the starlight reflecting off snow so white, it seems to glow with its own inner radiance. Rolling hills stretch to the horizon like frozen waves, and sparse forests of birch and pine create delicate tracery against the luminous ground. This is when you notice the subtle signs of life that persist even in this harsh environment. Animal tracks cross the snow near your igloo, probably an Arctic fox hunting for small mammals that tunnel beneath the surface. Somewhere in the distance, a snowy owl calls, its voice carrying across the still air like a ghost made of sound. Even here, at the edge of survival, life finds a way to persist. The contradiction strikes you again, the profound strangeness of your situation. You're lying in perfect comfort while surrounded by one of the most challenging environments on Earth. 6 inches of thermal glass separate you from conditions that have killed countless explorers, yet here you are, warm and safe and completely at peace. It's the ultimate expression of human ingenuity applied to the desire for impossible experiences. Your thoughts begin to fragment in that pleasant way they do when deep sleep is approaching. You think about the journey home that awaits you, the flights and connections that will carry you back to a world of traffic and deadlines and artificial lighting. It all seems surreal from this perspective, like someone else's life happening to someone else. The person who will board that plane tomorrow feels like a stranger compared to who you've become lying here under the Arctic stars. Sleep comes easier now, layered and complex like the aurora itself. First, your body relaxes completely, every muscle releasing tension you didn't know you were carrying. Then your breathing deepens and slows, synchronizing with the rhythm of the heating system's gentle cycles. Finally, your thoughts scatter and reform into the strange logic of dreams, where impossible things make perfect sense. In your final dream before dawn, you're standing outside the igloo without any protective clothing. But the cold feels like a gentle caress rather than a threat. The aurora has returned, more brilliant than ever, and it's reaching down to touch the snow around your feet. Where the lights make contact with the ground, flowers begin to bloom. Impossible Arctic flowers that grow from pure electromagnetic energy. You kneel in the snow to touch one of these light flowers, and it feels warm against your palm. The petals are made of condensed aurora, green and purple and blue all swirled together like cosmic watercolors. When you lift the flower to your face, it smells like ozone and starlight and the deep cold of space itself. The dream shifts one final time, and you're back inside the igloo, But now the walls are made of aurora instead of glass. Curtains of light rise from the floor to the ceiling, and you're lying at the center of a sphere made entirely of northern lights. The electromagnetic fire flows around you in patterns too complex for conscious understanding, but your sleeping mind reads them like a familiar language. When you wake from this dream, the quality of darkness outside has changed once more. It's still deep night, but there's something different in the air now, a subtle shift that speaks of approaching dawn, even though sunrise is still hours away. Your body recognizes the change before your conscious mind does. Some primitive circadian rhythm that connects you to the planet's rotation despite the artificial lighting and controlled temperature of your glass sanctuary. The digital clock reads 11:47 a.m., and you realize you've been in this transparent bubble for almost 24 hours. Time has moved differently here, stretched and compressed by the combination of extreme environment and extraordinary experience. Minutes felt like hours during the aurora display, but hours of sleep passed like minutes. You've entered a different temporal dimension where clocks become meaningless and only experience matters. The heating unit cycles on again, and you listen to the familiar whisper of warm air with something approaching affection. This simple machine has kept you alive through the longest Arctic night, maintaining the precise conditions needed for human survival in a place that exists at the very edge of what Earth can support. It's been your mechanical guardian angel, working tirelessly while you slept and dreamed and witnessed wonders. Outside, nothing has changed, and everything has changed. The landscape looks identical to how it appeared when you first arrived. The same rolling hills and sparse forests, the same pristine snow reflecting starlight like crushed diamonds. But your relationship to this environment has transformed completely. What once seemed alien and forbidding now feels familiar, even welcoming. You've spent a full cycle with this place, and it has accepted you as a temporary resident. The stars are beginning their slow fade toward dawn, though dawn itself is still hours away. At this latitude, the transition from night to day happens gradually, a gentle brightening of the eastern horizon that takes place over several hours, rather than the sudden sunrise you're accustomed to at lower latitudes. You're about to witness one of Earth's most gradual and beautiful transitions, the polar dawn that ends the longest night. Your stomach makes another quiet sound, reminding you that you haven't eaten since dinner at the main lodge almost 18 hours ago. But hunger feels distant, irrelevant compared to the profound satisfaction of having lived through this experience completely. You've consumed something more nourishing than food, absorbed pure wonder through your eyes and skin and lungs. The thermos beside the bed is empty now, but you're not thirsty either. The Arctic air has a purity that seems to satisfy thirst in ways ordinary air cannot. Each breath feels clean and sharp, like drinking from a mountain stream. Your lungs have adapted to the dry cold, and breathing has become a conscious pleasure rather than an automatic function. This is when you begin to understand the true gift of the glass igloo experience. It's not just about seeing the northern lights, though that alone would justify the journey. It's about experiencing your own small place in the vast machinery of the cosmos, about spending a full night in intimate contact with forces that dwarf human understanding. You've touched the infinite and found it beautiful rather than terrifying. The heating system continues its faithful work, cycling every 8 minutes with mechanical precision. You've become so attuned to its rhythm that you can predict each cycle, and the sound has become as comforting as a heartbeat. This simple technology represents thousands of years of human innovation, the accumulated knowledge that allows you to sleep peacefully in an environment that would have killed your ancestors in minutes. Midnight approaches with no fanfare, marked only by the digital clock's silent progression toward the arbitrary boundary between one day and the next. But time feels different here, measured not in hours and minutes, but in experiences and transformations. You've lived through something that exists outside ordinary time. A night that will remain vivid in your memory long after the details of ordinary days have faded. The stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns, telling the same stories they've told for millennia to anyone willing to lie still and watch. Tonight, you've become part of that story. Another human consciousness that has looked up at the universe and felt the profound connection that links all living things to the cosmic dance of matter and energy. Your eyelids grow heavy one final time as true dawn approaches. The sleep that comes now will be different from the rest you've taken throughout the night. This will be the deep, satisfied rest of someone who has completed an important journey, who has seen something that changes how they understand their place in the universe. The glass igloo maintains its perfect balance between safety and exposure, between comfort and adventure, as you drift towards sleep. Outside, the temperature has reached its nightly minimum, but inside, you remain perfectly warm, perfectly protected, perfectly positioned to dream of aurora and starlight and the profound silence that exists at the edge of the world. The last conscious thought you have before sleep claims you is a simple recognition of gratitude. Gratitude for the technology that made this experience possible, for the pristine wilderness that surrounds you, for the electromagnetic forces that painted the sky with impossible colors. Most of all, gratitude for the rare opportunity to step completely outside ordinary experience and touch something infinite. Sleep comes like a gentle tide, carrying you away from conscious awareness, but not from the profound peace that has settled into your bones. You sleep the sleep of someone who has been transformed by beauty, who has witnessed something that exists at the very edge of human experience. Tomorrow you'll return to the ordinary world, but you'll carry this night with you forever. A perfect memory crystallized like ice, clear and unbreakable, and eternally beautiful. The heating unit's gentle rhythm becomes your lullaby as consciousness fades completely. But even in the deepest sleep, part of your awareness remains connected to this extraordinary place. Your dreams are filled with ribbons of light that dance behind your closed eyelids, phantom auroras that your brain continues to paint even when the real ones have vanished from the sky above. In these final dream sequences, you're no longer just an observer of the Arctic night. You've become part of its rhythm, your heartbeat synchronized with the pulse of the magnetosphere, your breathing aligned with the slow rotation of the Earth beneath the stars. The boundary between your physical body and the electromagnetic forces that govern this landscape has dissolved completely. You dream of the indigenous peoples who lived on this land for thousands of years before glass igloos existed, who read the aurora like a language written across the heavens. In your sleep, their ancient knowledge flows through you, and suddenly you understand what the dancing lights are really saying. Each color carries information about weather patterns, animal migrations, the health of the land itself. The aurora becomes a vast communication system, and you're finally fluent in its luminous vocabulary. Sometime around 1 a.m., your consciousness surfaces just enough to register a change in the world outside your transparent sanctuary. The wind has returned, gentle but persistent, carrying new snow across the landscape in patterns that shift and flow like liquid mercury. The particles strike your glass walls with the softest whisper, a sound so delicate it's barely distinguishable from silence, yet somehow perfectly audible in this world of absolute quiet. The snowfall creates a new kind of beauty, transforming your view from a static winter landscape into something alive and dynamic. Each flake catches the starlight as it falls, creating tiny sparks of brightness that appear and disappear in the space between your eyes and the horizon. It's like watching the universe sprinkle diamond dust across the frozen earth, and the effect is hypnotic enough to hold your attention even in your drowsy state. Your body has adapted completely to the rhythm of this place now. The artificial warmth no longer feels artificial. The recycled air tastes clean and pure. Even the gentle hum of the heating system has become part of the natural soundscape, as integral to this environment as wind through pine trees or waves against a distant shore. You've crossed some invisible threshold from visitor to temporary resident, from observer to participant in the ancient dance between human consciousness and Arctic wilderness. The glass walls around you have become invisible in a way, no longer barriers between inside and outside, but simply the boundary between two states of being. You exist in a liminal space, neither fully indoors nor completely exposed to the elements. It's the perfect metaphor for this entire experience, suspended between safety and danger, between the familiar and the impossible, between the human world and something far more vast and mysterious. 2 a.m. brings another subtle shift in the Arctic night. The stars seem to pulse with renewed intensity, as if the falling snow has cleared the atmosphere even further. Constellations that appeared bright earlier now blaze with jewel-like fire, and you can actually see colors in individual stars that usually appear simply white. Betelgeuse glows with deep amber warmth, while Rigel burns with blue-white intensity that seems almost electric against the velvet darkness. The Milky Way has rotated to its most spectacular position, stretching directly overhead like a bridge of light connecting one horizon to the other. From your position lying flat in the center of the glass dome, you have a perfect view of our galaxy's spiral arm, the same structure that contains your home planet, and every star visible to the naked eye. The perspective is overwhelming and humbling, a reminder of just how small and precious this moment is in the vast sweep of cosmic time. You close your eyes again and try to absorb the full magnitude of what you're experiencing. You're lying in a heated bubble of glass and air, surrounded by one of Earth's most extreme environments, watching the same stars that guided ancient navigators across unknown oceans. The technology that makes this possible is barely a few decades old, but the sky you're watching has looked exactly the same for thousands of human generations. The falling snow intensifies slightly, and now you can hear it more clearly as it strikes the curved glass walls. Each flake makes its own tiny sound, and together they create a percussion symphony so subtle it exists at the very edge of hearing. It's like listening to the universe whisper secrets, and you find yourself straining to decode meaning in the random patterns of impact and silence. This is when the true magic of the glass igloo experience reveals itself completely. You're not just watching nature from a safe distance. You're immersed in it, surrounded by it, protected from it, and connected to it all at the same time. The contradiction should be jarring, but instead, it feels perfectly natural, like you've discovered the ideal balance between human comfort and wild beauty. Your thoughts drift to the people who built this place, who figured out how to create a heated sanctuary that could survive Arctic winters while remaining completely transparent to the world outside. The engineering challenges must have been immense, from the thermal properties of the glass, to the efficiency of the heating system, to the structural integrity needed to withstand high winds and heavy snow loads. Yet the final result feels effortless, like it grew from the landscape rather than being imposed upon it. The digital thermometer continues its faithful reporting, minus 48 degrees Celsius outside, 21 degrees inside. The 49-degree differential represents the entire range between deadly cold and perfect comfort, maintained by nothing more complex than heated air circulation and double-paned glass. It's a testament to human ingenuity, but also a reminder of how thin the line is between survival and catastrophe in places like this. 3 a.m. arrives with no fanfare except the soft progression of glowing numbers on the clock face. The snow continues to fall, now accumulating visibly on the curved surfaces of your transparent home. Each flake that sticks to the glass creates a tiny lens that refracts the starlight in new ways, breaking white light into prismatic fragments that dance across the interior walls. Your simple shelter is transforming into a kaleidoscope, and you're lying at its center, watching the patterns shift and change with each new snowflake. The heating system maintains its steady rhythm, cycling on every 8 minutes with mechanical precision. You've become so attuned to its schedule that you wake automatically just before each cycle begins, consciousness surfacing just enough to hear the gentle whoosh of warm air before sinking back into dreams. Your body has synchronized with the machine that's keeping you alive, creating a feedback loop between human biology and Arctic technology. In your half-awake state, you begin to understand something profound about the relationship between comfort and appreciation. The warmth inside your glass sanctuary feels infinitely more precious because of the killing cold just inches away. The silence feels more complete because you can hear the wind trying to penetrate your transparent walls. The safety feels more significant because of the vast wilderness that surrounds you on all sides. This heightened appreciation extends to everything in your small world. The soft texture of the reindeer fur blankets becomes a sensual pleasure when you know that the alternative is freezing to death. The gentle circulation of heated air feels like a miracle when you consider that your next breath depends entirely on mechanical systems functioning perfectly in extreme conditions. Even the simple act of lying still and comfortable takes on profound meaning when you're doing it in one of the most hostile environments on Earth. The snowfall begins to taper off around 4 a.m., and gradually the stars emerge more clearly from behind the veil of falling crystals. The sudden clarity is startling after hours of watching the sky through a filter of moving snow. It's like someone has cleaned a window you didn't realize was dirty, revealing details and colors that were hidden just moments before. The accumulated snow on your glass walls creates an interesting optical effect. Where the flakes have stuck to the curved surfaces, they act like tiny prisms, breaking the starlight into component colors that paint rainbow fragments across the interior of your shelter. The effect is subtle but beautiful, like living inside a crystal that's refracting the entire universe into manageable pieces of wonder. Your body feels different now than it did when you first lay down for the night. The constant exposure to extreme beauty and extreme conditions has triggered some kind of physiological response that goes beyond simple adaptation. Your senses feel heightened, more acute, as if the combination of sensory deprivation and sensory overload has recalibrated your nervous system for maximum receptivity. Colors seem more vivid, even in the near darkness. The subtle blue of starlight, the warm amber glow of the digital clock, the soft green illumination from the heating system's status light, all appear more saturated, more present than they should. Your eyes have adapted not just to the darkness, but to a new way of seeing that extracts maximum information from minimal light. Sounds have taken on new dimensions as well. The whisper of heated air through the vents carries harmonic overtones you never noticed in normal environments. The gentle settling sounds of the glass structure as it adjusts to temperature changes become a kind of architectural music, and you find yourself listening for patterns in the random creaks and sighs. Even your sense of touch has been transformed. The fur blankets feel richer, more textured, as if your skin has developed the ability to perceive individual fibers and their complex interactions. The slight movement of air from the heating system creates sensations of warmth and coolness across your face that feel almost like gentle caresses from invisible hands. This sensory enhancement feels like a gift, a temporary upgrade in perception that comes from stepping completely outside normal experience. It's what explorers throughout history must have felt when they pushed beyond the boundaries of the known world and discovered that their bodies and minds were capable of adapting to conditions they never imagined possible. 5 a.m. brings the first hint of change on the eastern horizon, though sunrise is still hours away. It's not light exactly, but a barely perceptible lessening of the absolute darkness, like someone has adjusted the universe's contrast setting by the smallest possible increment. Your body recognizes the shift before your conscious mind does, some ancient circadian rhythm that connects you to the planet's rotation despite the artificial environment of your heated sanctuary. The stars begin their slow fade toward dawn, though the process will take hours to complete at this latitude. The brightest stars remain clearly visible, but the fainter ones start to disappear into the gradually lightening sky. It's a transition so gradual you have to watch carefully to notice it happening, like watching a flower bloom in extreme slow motion. The snow has stopped falling completely now, leaving behind a landscape transformed by the night's accumulation. Everything looks softer, more rounded, as if the sharp edges of the Arctic have been padded with white velvet. The rolling hills appear more gentle, the sparse trees more delicate, and even the distant mountains seem less imposing under their fresh coating of crystalline snow. Your glass walls have collected a thin layer of snow that creates interesting patterns as it interacts with the heated surfaces. Some sections remain completely clear where the thermal properties of the glass have melted the accumulation instantly. Other areas show delicate frost patterns where the snow has partially melted and refrozen, creating natural mandalas of ice that will disappear as soon as the sun rises. The heating system continues its faithful operation, but you notice it's cycling slightly less frequently now. Either the outside temperature has risen a degree or two, or the accumulated snow on the structure is providing additional insulation. The machine is adapting to changing conditions just as you are, making micro adjustments that maintain perfect comfort while conserving energy. You shift position under the blankets, trying to find the perfect angle for watching the gradual approach of dawn. The bed has been positioned expertly for this purpose, allowing you to see the eastern horizon while remaining completely comfortable under your warm coverings. Someone who designed this experience understood that the transition from night to day would be as important as the aurora display itself. The silence has taken on a different quality now, less absolute than it was during the deepest part of the night. Occasionally you can hear the distant call of a snowy owl or the soft whoosh of wind through the pine trees. The Arctic wilderness is beginning to wake up, though dawn is still hours away. Life persists even in these extreme conditions, adapted to rhythms and cycles that exist far beyond human timescales. Your phone remains completely dead, and you realize you haven't missed it at all. The constant connectivity that defines modern life feels not just unnecessary, but actively intrusive when compared to this direct, unfiltered experience of the natural world. You've remembered what it feels like to exist in the present moment without the constant pull of digital distractions. 6 a.m. passes with no dramatic change, except the continued gradual lightening of the eastern sky. The stars are noticeably dimmer now, though still clearly visible. The Big Dipper has rotated significantly since you first lay down, marking the passage of time in the most ancient way humans know. You're watching the same celestial clockwork that guided your ancestors across continents and oceans. The accumulated snow on your glass walls begins to shift slightly as the thermal properties of the structure create microscopic changes in temperature. Tiny avalanches of snow crystals slide down the curved surfaces, creating brief sparkles as they catch what little light exists in the pre-dawn darkness. It's like watching the igloo shed its winter coat in preparation for the approaching day. Your body feels completely rested, despite having slept only intermittently throughout the night. The combination of extreme cold outside and perfect warmth inside seems to have triggered some kind of restorative process that goes beyond ordinary sleep. You feel energized, alert, and somehow more present in your own skin than you have in years. This sense of physical well-being extends to your mental state as well. Your thoughts feel clearer, more focused, freed from the constant background noise of modern anxiety and digital overwhelm. The simplicity of your situation, lying in a heated bubble surrounded by pristine wilderness, has created a kind of mental clarity that's both refreshing and profound. The approaching dawn brings with it a sense of completion, as if you're witnessing the final movement of a symphony that began when you first saw the aurora dancing across the Arctic sky. The entire experience has had a narrative arc, from the initial excitement of arrival through the profound wonder of the light display, to this gentle conclusion as the longest night slowly surrenders to day. But even as dawn approaches, you know that the memory of this night will remain vivid for the rest of your life. You've experienced something that exists at the very edge of human possibility. Touched the infinite while remaining safely grounded in your own mortality. The glass igloo has given you the perfect paradox. Complete safety in the midst of complete wildness. Ultimate comfort at the edge of survival. The heating system cycles on one more time, and you listen to the familiar sound with something approaching affection. This simple machine has been your guardian angel throughout the Arctic night, maintaining the precise conditions needed to keep you alive while you witnessed wonders. Tomorrow, you'll return to a world where such mechanical miracles are taken for granted. But tonight, you understand their true value. 7 a.m. arrives with the first hint of color on the eastern horizon. A pale blue glow that's barely distinguishable from the darkness, but unmistakably different from the absolute black of deep night. Dawn is beginning its slow approach, though the sun itself won't appear for several more hours. At this latitude, sunrise is less an event than a process, a gradual transformation that unfolds over half the morning. The stars continue their retreat, the faintest ones disappearing entirely, while the brightest persist in the slowly brightening sky. Soon, you'll be able to see the landscape around your igloo in daylight for the first time since you arrived. The rolling hills and sparse forests that appeared so mysterious under starlight will reveal their true character in the pale Arctic sun. But for now, in these final moments before full dawn, you remain suspended between night and day, between sleep and waking, between the extraordinary experience you've just lived and the ordinary world that waits beyond the glass walls of your transparent sanctuary. The aurora is gone, the deepest darkness has passed, but the memory of what you've witnessed will burn as brightly as the northern lights themselves for as long as you live. The glass igloo has given you something irreplaceable, a night when you touched the infinite and found it beautiful, a few hours when you existed in perfect harmony with forces beyond human understanding. As the Arctic dawn slowly brightens the eastern sky, you lie warm and safe and profoundly changed, carrying within you the gift of having slept under dancing lights in a glass bubble at the edge of the world. The gentle brightening continues as 8 a.m. approaches, and you realize this gradual transition from night to day is perhaps even more remarkable than the aurora itself. This isn't the sudden sunrise you know from lower latitudes, where the sun pops above the horizon like a cosmic light bulb being switched on. This is something far more subtle and profound, a slow awakening of the world that takes hours to complete. The eastern horizon now glows with the faintest suggestion of amber, a warmth of color that seems impossible in this frozen landscape, yet undeniably real. It's barely brighter than candlelight, but after hours of absolute darkness, even this tiny increase in illumination feels dramatic. Your eyes, now perfectly adapted to the Arctic night, can detect variations in the light that would be invisible under normal circumstances. The accumulated snow on your glass walls begins to shift more noticeably as the thermal properties of the structure respond to the approaching dawn. Tiny cascades of snow crystals slide down the curved surfaces, each one catching and refracting what little light exists in the pre-dawn air. Your transparent home is slowly revealing itself as the night's accumulation melts and slides away, like watching a sculpture emerge from beneath a white shroud. Inside your heated cocoon, the temperature remains perfectly stable, but you can sense the enormous energy the heating system is expending to maintain this comfort. The outside temperature has reached its absolute minimum now, -49 degrees Celsius, a cold so extreme it exists at the very edge of what Earth's atmosphere can produce. Yet here you lie, warm and drowsy and completely safe, protected by nothing more than heated air and thermal glass. Your body feels different now than it did when you first arrived. The constant exposure to extreme conditions, even from the safety of your heated sanctuary, has triggered adaptations you didn't know were possible. Your circulation feels more efficient, you're breathing deeper and more rhythmic. It's as if your physiology has remembered some ancient programming designed for survival in harsh environments, dormant genetic instructions awakening after a single night in the Arctic wilderness. The silence has evolved throughout the night. becoming not just the absence of sound, but a presence in itself, something that fills the space around you with weight and texture. Occasionally, a distant sound penetrates this profound quiet, the crack of a tree branch contracting in the cold, or the soft call of a snowy owl hunting in the darkness. These sounds don't break the silence so much as emphasize it, like single notes played against the vast symphony of stillness. 9 a.m. brings more color to the eastern sky, pale yellows and oranges that seem to glow from within rather than being illuminated by any external source. The horizon is beginning to define itself more clearly, separating earth from sky with a line that wavers slightly in the cold air. Mountains that were invisible in the darkness start to reveal their silhouettes, massive shapes that dwarf your tiny glass shelter, yet somehow make it feel more secure rather than more vulnerable. The heating unit cycles on again, and you realize you've been unconsciously counting its rhythms throughout the night. Every 8 minutes and 37 seconds, almost exactly, a testament to the precision engineering that makes this impossible experience possible. The warm air whispers across your face like a mechanical blessing, maintaining the artificial microclimate that keeps you alive in conditions that would kill you in minutes. Your thoughts begin to turn toward the journey home that awaits you, the gradual return to a world of central heating and artificial lighting and constant connectivity. The transition will be jarring after this night of pure experience, like stepping from a cathedral into a shopping mall. But you know you'll carry something essential back with you, some fundamental shift in perspective that can't be reversed or forgotten. The glass walls around you have become completely clear again as the thermal heating melts away the night's accumulation of snow. Your view of the surrounding landscape is unobstructed once more, revealing a world transformed by the fresh snowfall. Everything appears softer, more ethereal, as if the Arctic night has wrapped the entire visible world in silk. The rolling hills flow like frozen waves, and the sparse forests stand like calligraphy written against the white page of the tundra. 10 a.m. arrives with the first suggestion of actual light on the horizon, still pale and distant, but unmistakably warmer than the cold fire of starlight. The sun is beginning its brief daily appearance, though it won't rise high enough to provide meaningful warmth or illumination. Arctic winter sunrise is more symbolic than practical, a reminder that even here, at the edge of perpetual darkness, the planet continues its ancient dance around the star that gives it life. The stars begin their final retreat, the brightest ones clinging to visibility, while the fainter ones dissolve into the gradually brightening sky. Soon Venus will appear, brilliant and solitary in the dawn light, the last celestial performer on a stage that has hosted the most spectacular natural show on Earth. But for now, the transition continues slowly, marking the end of your extraordinary night with the same gradual majesty that characterized its beginning. Your breathing has synchronized completely with the rhythm of the heating system, creating a harmony between your biological functions and the mechanical processes keeping you alive. It's a partnership between human and machine that feels surprisingly natural, as if you've discovered the perfect balance between technology and wilderness that defines the best of human exploration. The accumulated experience of the night begins to settle in your consciousness, like sediment in still water. Layer by layer, memory by memory, the full magnitude of what you've witnessed starts to organize itself into something your mind can hold and preserve. You've seen the northern lights dance across the Arctic sky while lying in perfect comfort at the edge of the world, and that experience has become part of who you are in ways you're only beginning to understand. 11 a.m. brings more definition to the eastern horizon as the sun approaches its brief daily appearance above the southern skyline. The pale light reveals details in the landscape that were invisible under starlight, subtle variations in the snow cover that speak of wind patterns and temperature gradients, and the complex interactions between atmosphere and earth that create the conditions for aurora displays. The thermal glass of your shelter remains perfectly clear, despite the extreme temperature differential, a testament to the engineering precision that makes this experience possible. Through these transparent walls, you've maintained constant connection with the Arctic wilderness, while remaining completely protected from its lethal embrace. It's the perfect metaphor for the best kind of adventure travel, where you can touch the extreme without being consumed by it. Your thoughts drift to all the people who will never experience anything like this, who will live entire lives without witnessing the northern lights from a heated sanctuary in the Arctic wilderness. The exclusivity doesn't make you feel superior, but rather deeply grateful for the combination of circumstances, technology, and simple luck that brought you to this moment. You've been present for something that exists at the very edge of human possibility. The heating system maintains its faithful operation as noon approaches, but you can sense it working less hard now as the outside temperature begins its microscopic climb toward the day's maximum. Even in the depths of Arctic winter, the approaching sun makes its presence felt hours before it actually appears, warming the atmosphere just enough to ease the mechanical burden of keeping you comfortable. The digital clock glows steadily in the pale light that now filters through your transparent walls. 11:47 a.m. You've spent nearly 24 hours in this glass bubble, living through the complete cycle of an Arctic night and the beginning of an Arctic day. Time has moved differently here, measured not in hours and minutes, but in experiences and transformations that will remain vivid long after ordinary days have faded from memory. The snow around your igloo lies in perfect drifts, sculpted by wind into flowing patterns that mirror the aurora displays you watched throughout the night. Everything is connected here, from the electromagnetic forces that paint lights across the sky to the atmospheric conditions that shape snow into artistic forms. You've witnessed a night when the entire Arctic environment revealed its hidden unity, showing you how all its elements dance together in harmony. As the faint dawn light grows slightly stronger, you begin to see your reflection in the glass walls for the first time since darkness fell. You look different somehow, more present, more aware, as if the night has carved away something unnecessary and revealed something essential underneath. Your eyes appear brighter, more focused, and there's a stillness in your expression that wasn't there when you arrived. The heating unit cycles on one final time as consciousness fully returns, and you listen to the familiar whisper of warm air with deep appreciation. This simple machine has been your lifeline throughout the Arctic night, maintaining the precise conditions needed for human survival, while you witnessed wonders that exist beyond normal human experience. Tomorrow, you'll return to a world where such mechanical miracles are taken for granted, but you'll never forget their true value. 12:30 p.m. arrives with the first appearance of the sun itself, a pale disk that barely clears the southern horizon before beginning its descent back toward the edge of the world. Arctic winter daylight lasts only a few hours, but those hours are filled with a quality of light unlike anything found at lower latitudes. Everything glows with soft, ethereal radiance, as if the entire landscape has been dusted with luminescent powder. Through your glass walls, you watch this brief Arctic day unfold with the same sense of privilege you felt during the aurora display. The sun casts long shadows across the snow, creating depth and definition in a landscape that appeared flat under starlight. Colors emerge that were invisible in the darkness: the subtle blue of snow in shadow, the warm amber of sunlight on ice, the deep green of pine needles heavy with frost. But even as day arrives, you know your extraordinary night is ending. Soon, the staff from the main lodge will arrive to escort you back to warmth and civilization and the beginning of your journey home. The glass igloo will be cleaned and prepared for the next traveler seeking their own encounter with the infinite, and you'll join the small community of people who have slept under the northern lights in a heated bubble at the edge of the world. The experience concludes as gently as it began, with no dramatic finale or sudden transition. You simply lie in your warm sanctuary, watching the Arctic day brighten around you, carrying within you the memory of a night when you touched something eternal and found it beautiful beyond description. The glass igloo has given you the perfect gift. A few hours when you existed in complete harmony with forces beyond human understanding, safe and warm, and profoundly connected to the cosmic dance that governs everything from the smallest snowflake to the largest galaxy. When you finally rise from the reindeer fur blankets and prepare to leave your transparent home, you know you're not the same person who arrived here yesterday. You've been transformed by beauty, by solitude, by the profound experience of sleeping under dancing lights in a glass bubble at the edge of the world. And that transformation will travel with you wherever you go, a permanent reminder of the night you spent cradled between earth and sky, between safety and wilderness, between the human world and something infinitely larger and more mysterious. The door of the glass igloo opens with a soft click, and Arctic air rushes in to meet the tropical warmth of your sanctuary. The temperature difference creates an instant cloud of condensation, a visible boundary between two worlds. You step across that threshold, carrying with you the memory of the most extraordinary night of your life. A few hours when you floated in a heated bubble under the northern lights and discovered that some experiences can only be lived, never shared, never fully explained to those who weren't there. Outside, your footsteps crunch in the fresh snow as you walk toward the main lodge, but part of your consciousness remains in that glass sanctuary, forever watching aurora dance across the Arctic sky while wrapped in warmth and wonder at the very edge of the world.